Hello my loves, welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel if you are new here. Hi, hello-y, my name is Loey, and today I am so very excited because we're going to be taking a look at some more scary TikTok stories. Now, these are some of my favorite videos from the scary side of TikTok to film. In a sea of paranormal TikTok videos to debunk or believe in, I just love hearing people's personal scary stories straight from their own mouths. Not all of these are paranormal because sometimes real people are indeed scarier than the ghosts. But I promise you guys, every single one of these stories has been one that has been on my mind for a while and that I think is truly terrifying enough to tell you about. But before we get into the scary videos, I want to thank the sponsor of today's video, Midas Merge. Now, I have told you guys about Midas Merge before. It's one of my favorite mobile games, but it's a Merge 3 game in which you combine different treasures and creatures to restore the Gardens of Gold and drive out Nyx, the goddess of the night. And while I love pretty much all of the gameplay aspects of Midas Merge, my favorite part of it is the cute little critters, okay? I have such a fondness for these little crystal fawns. This is my pride and joy. Their name is Chonks. I also love these little cappy birds. I've had so many of these critters for such a long time as well. Or like I had their predecessor for a really long time before merging them up. I also love the story behind the game. I get really invested in the little lore drops that they give us. Plus, Midas Merge is free to download. There are no ads and you can play offline, which I appreciate so much. So often I'll fall in love with a mobile game, but then I can't do anything with it when I don't have any service or Wi-Fi. But with Midas Merge, I can always check in on my cute little critters and see how my Gardens of Gold are doing. The first 100 of you to download Midas Merge using my link or the QR code on screen right now will actually get a cute little Mox Fox creature of your very own with my channel name attached to it. How cute is that? You guys will have a cutie little Mox Fox LoeyLane. So once again, download Midas Merge, get your cute little Mox Fox, and send me a screenshot if you do. I want to see them in your Gardens of Gold. Thank you so much to Midas Merge for sponsoring this video. Once again, they are one of my favorite mobile games, so I'm very excited to be working with them again. Thank you guys for all of your support, as always. And now, let's get into the scary videos. Like I said, not all of these are paranormal, but where's a more fun place to start than with the paranormal ones, am I right? The first story is a paranormal babysitting story, which always just feels so close to home because those were some of my most popular storytime videos talking about my paranormal babysitting experiences. And so this one definitely crawled under my skin, maybe more than the others. Basically, this poster says that she used to babysit for 2 children that she calls in this video Luna and Aura, and that the house that they lived in particular always just had an incredibly dark energy around it.
I was babysitting and the older one had an imaginary friend that she called Pete. I would always sense weird energy in this house. Disturbing, dark, like not good, friendly Casper the Ghost.
So one night when Aura is down for the count, Luna and this poster go to play a board game in the living room. She says that she remembers it being Candyland, and that while they were playing, this child had out a piece for someone else that wasn't physically there.
But when we were playing, she had another little character and it was Pete's, right? And every time, I swear to God, I would look away, I'd look back and it would move, and she'd be like, oh, Pete moved it. And I'm like, okay, Luna, like, you obviously moved it, you know? Like, she's 3, and I know she's just like, you know, she doesn't know how to play the game. Now I know it was literally this dark spirit that was moving it, but stay with me.
At this point, it doesn't seem like the poster is taking it too terribly seriously. However, then Luna starts talking about a song that she hears that she really likes. And the poster is confused. She's like, you know, what song? Luna says it's the song that Pete is currently singing to her. It's a song that her dad plays on guitar. And this poster knew that the dad did play guitar. At this point, the guitar is actually in the parents' bedroom. And she's, you know, weirded out by this. She's kind of like, well, you know, maybe we don't talk to Pete. But then she hears the song too.
So anyways, I'm like, what song? Blah, blah. And she's like, I'm trying to get her to describe to me again. She's 3. She doesn't really know how to describe it. And she says, no, Pete said he'll play for you. And I said, no, that's okay. Me like, want anything to do with it? She said, no, he'll play for you. Just hold on. So I ignore it and we start playing this game again. Just moving little pieces across the board. And all of a sudden I hear the strum of a guitar. Just a solo strum, like an off chord. And I just get chills down my back because at this time, the guitar was in the parents' room. I only knew that. I hadn't gone in their room that time, but because I heard it and their door was shut. And Luna jumps up. She's like, oh, I told you, Riley. Like, I told you. Pete said he'd show you the song. It's my favorite song. So I go into the parents' room. I turn on all lights. The guitar is just sitting against the wall. Nobody's in the house. I do a sweep. And I'm like really disturbed because every sweep I'm doing, I feel like something is just hovering and following me into every room I'm going into.
So it's picking up and it's getting weird. And this poster is starting to feel pretty uncomfortable with the entire situation. Normally, I say that you kind of should judge how kids feel about a paranormal entity, whether you think it's like good or bad, because I feel like oftentimes kids will know, you know what I mean? But in this particular circumstance, what this poster goes on to describe, I think her intuition was actually the correct one here, because she just felt so dark and heavy in this house. I mean, for a minute there, she's like, is somebody in here? You know, what in the world is going on? And then she starts to think, okay, well, maybe this is paranormal. And she ends up checking the baby monitor at one point. And what she saw made her heart drop.
Pick up the baby monitor to check on Aura. And I literally gag when I think about this because it was so terrifying. I see a hand, right next to the baby. She's sleeping, she's swaddling, and it's a creepy hand where the nails are like this long and it's just this black shadowy hand just right next to her. I freak out. I literally sprinted, ran, busted into Aura's room, woke her up because I came in the door so hot. She was crying and just felt that energy in that room was disgusting. I'm sitting on the couch with the baby and with Luna, and I forgot to turn off the baby monitor, and I literally hear just disembodied voices coming from the baby monitor. Terrifying, out of nowhere, loud. And I literally just shut the baby monitor off.
Now both kids are basically awake on the couch with the poster. She's wondering, like, how in the world am I going to tell these parents why they're still awake at this hour? Eventually the two of them do drift off to sleep. The parents come home, and I was wondering if she would like tell the parents about this, but she actually said that she had tried to talk to them about it before and that they were kind of weird and not super receptive to it. I think she made another video about that. I actually couldn't find it, but you guys should definitely check out her profile if you want to hear more stories. Either way, she said she ended up hearing like disembodied voices coming from the baby monitor, which normally I would be like, okay, baby monitors are hackable, you know, but there was just too much here, I think, for that to be an explanation, especially the hand. Until that point, I kind of was like, maybe this is just this kid's like imaginary friend ghost. Maybe it's, you know, not all that harmful, but the fact that she saw that like long clawed hand going towards the baby, when she had just started feeling like semi-okay herself, like she said, it almost seemed like this entity went into that room. Really, really, really creepy. And I think a perfectly terrifying way to kick off this video. Our next TikTok story begs a simple question. How do you sell a haunted house as a realtor? Well, in this story, TikToker Eid.tings tells the story about being a first-time realtor selling a haunted house.
One thing I don't see realtors talk about is what happens when they encounter a haunted house. And when I was a new realtor, there was this house that was haunted that I had to try to sell, and it was just a hot mess, let me tell you.
Now, this story takes place in Albany, Georgia, and so many of my childhood paranormal stories that I have told you guys take place in or around, actually, Albany, Georgia. So when I heard her say that, I knew that this was going to be good.
So at this point, I was getting assignments from my broker directly because I was brand new. I didn't really have any clientele, nothing like that. So my broker tells me I need to start doing BPOs, and I do a BPO on this house that's literally on an outskirt, middle of nowhere in Albany, Georgia.
And she takes her friend with her to like go take these photos and document this house. And as they're going down the roads, the GPS takes them down one road all the way to the end, and then another one all the way to the end, and then it turns into a dirt road. And she just says suddenly they're not just like in the middle of nowhere, it's like cornfields middle of nowhere. And I completely know what she's talking about. And when they see this house, she knew the minute she looked at it that it was bad news.
Y'all, first of all, this was a beaten down shack in the middle of the woods, and right across from the house was this large open field. Mind you, this house was sitting on acres. I think it was about maybe 4 or 5 acres that this house was sitting on. And so if you know anything about BPOs, you got to take pictures. So I get the key, I'm unlocking the door, and I obviously don't want to go in by myself because I'm scared. Like, everything is overgrown, the grass is overgrown, the house is basically falling apart, and I was told that they were doing repairs on it. So we walk up in this house, right? And first of all, I'm getting creeped out. out. Like, the house is creepy. Some walls is painted. Like, you could tell somebody just kind of packed up and moved, but the house is kind of raggedy. It got that old house smell. The kitchen is completely gutted. Like, you walk into the living room, the child's room is on your left, and to the right, I want to say it was the master bedroom. So this is a really small house. Mind you, in the back of that house, there's mold. So, like, it's a lot of problems with this house.
So they're just trying to get through this as fast as possible. I mean, this just spells bad news, especially for two young girls in the middle of nowhere by themselves. So they're just trying to get through it really quickly when suddenly
they go into the master bedroom. I'm in the kitchen, and all I hear is, Edie, come here. Edie, come here. Y'all, why I go into the room, into the closet, and written on the wall, I literally took a picture of this years ago, and I lost the freaking picture. I wish I had the picture. But it says something like, please stay away. This house is haunted. It will break up your family.
Now, that's terrifying. But Edie had to go back there again. And this time, her friend, whether her friend was just like, hey, I'm not going back there, or couldn't go, did not end up going with her. So she took her dog, a very, very wise choice. Edie will survive the horror movie. But as they're driving down the roads, she notices as they get closer and closer to the house, the dog is starting to act a little strange. Like, suddenly her dog pulls its head in from the window, and it doesn't really want to get out of the car when they stop in front of the house. Like, the dog knows that something's off, and you should always listen to a dog when it senses something spooky. Kids and dogs, that's my general rule of thumb. But she goes to the door, and the dog doesn't really change his tune.
So I go to the front door, and I unlock it. I look behind me. My dog is literally looking. I'm trying to explain this, but my dog was basically in front of the front door, not quite on the front porch, looking, crouched down low, looking at the house. I'm like, all right, his name was Ace. I was like, all right, AC Poo, come on. He was not budging. I said, come on, Ace, come on. At this point, I'm like, stop playing with me. Get in this house. Help me. Yo, he wasn't going for it. He ran back to the car and was literally standing outside the car door looking at me like, ma'am. And that's how I know it's real, because dogs be knowing, animals be knowing. I'm like, all right, I ain't gonna subject him to this. So I put him back in the car, and I'm like, let me just hurry up and take my pictures. So I'm going through the house taking pictures, and I just, like, you know that feeling that, like, something bad is gonna happen, like, I want to say impending doom. That's just how I was feeling, and I just felt like I was being watched, and I was honestly so scared. I'm not gonna lie to you. And the worst part is there was no service. So I was trying to call my friend, I was trying to call my mom, I was trying to call everybody in the world. Call was failing. Thankfully, I made it out that time without a scratch.
Here's the weirdest part. During this entire process, people are supposed to be working on the house, you know, fixing things up. The guys who are supposed to do all of that work never show, okay? Nobody ever even buys the house. People who go do not put it in an offer. Edie said that she knew that someone had at one point, but she looked at the tax history. The house was just never sold. And honestly, she was kind of saying this, but I feel like the message on the wall would be reason enough for me not to buy the house. So I certainly don't blame any of these home buyers for skipping out on that one. But yeah, this was just such a crazy story. And I feel like I've seen videos before of people like selling houses, like realtors taking videos in houses where suddenly paranormal activity starts happening. And like I said at the beginning of this, a lot of the times I look at that and it's either, do I think this is real? Do I think it's edited? Do I think it's, you know, complete utter bull? But this and the way that she tells this story and just the genuine visceral fear to this day sells me completely that not only was this shack real, it was definitely haunted with something bad. There's something about Deep South Georgia, y'all. I'm telling you, there's a reason I'm obsessed with the paranormal, and it's because I am from that area. In a recent one of these scary TikTok stories videos, I talked about this creator named Leeleesstorytime, or Leelees1985, and she told a terrifying babysitting story that she had. And it got like 7.5 million views, and now I'm so happy to see this. She gets like millions of views on every single one of her videos, just telling stories from her own life, telling stories about like other scary things. And I love it so much. She's such a great storyteller. And this series of videos is called She's So Evil That Grass Won't Even Grow on Her Grave. And this gets pretty dark, so you have been warned. The story starts like this. In 1905, a girl named Jeanette was born. At a very young age, Jeanette is displaying some pretty concerning behavior. She hurt her family members. She stole razor blades from a store and put them in her mother's food. Luckily, Luckily, her mom had figured this out before eating anything, but I mean, that is just like a depraved thing to even think of. So she was a bully basically her entire life. Multiple family pets passed away basically because of her. I don't know why they continued to get her more pets. Literally, Lelee said this as well, but she just kept hurting them. So this kid is just evil. I mean, half of the things that Lelee describes her doing, I can't even put in this video for YouTube's terms of service. Be sure to go check out the original one if you want to hear all of the details, but it gets disgusting. Jeanette's mother feels like she has just failed with Jeanette. Then her parents have another child.
When Jeanette was 12, we had our son. When we brought him home from the hospital, the first thing Jeanette said when she saw him was, "Wow, he would look really good in a pot of hot boiling water on the stove." And that was the moment I knew I could not leave her alone with her little brother. Gee, you think it took you that long to figure that out?
So this girl is just shunned by the community, shunned by everyone basically. She can't be left alone with anybody. It's a miracle that she ends up finding a man who is interested in her. And this poor guy, I mean, he just is not long for this world, I can already tell.
Willie was a very sweet boy. He was a hard worker. He saved up his money, he got him a car, a place, and eventually they got married and moved in together. Jeanette would always threaten Willie, "If you try to leave, I'll take you out with the others. I'll put you in the ground with the demons. You don't want to with me, Willie." While on their honeymoon, Willie was hospitalized after Jeanette bashed him in the head with a statue because she said he wasn't walking fast enough. Within a couple of years of getting married, Willie had bought a farm and they were now making a good income by selling their crops. Janelle did what she wanted. Either she stayed home, went out drinking, was at the bars, or was out with other men. At 18, Jeanette gave birth to their first child, a little girl named Gertrude, but within 3 months, the baby was sent to live with her grandmother. Because Jeanette tried to choke the baby to death after Willie bought her a dress. She said he was giving the baby too much attention. She didn't like that. By the time Jeanette was 21, she had gotten pregnant with another man's baby. Willie knew it was not his child, but he did not care because he was devoted to this marriage.
And Jeanette is just so evil. I mean, she's telling Willie all of this stuff, like, if you don't get me this car, you're gonna be out there with the rest of them, like, you're gonna be next. And he's so terrified of her at this point, he does whatever she wants. They have another daughter, and this time, Willie has the sense to get that baby out of there ASAP.
And when Jeanette had Bernadette, Willie took the baby when she was like 2 days old to his family's house because he was afraid that Jeanette was going to kill her. Within 3 months of having Bernadette, Jeanette was pregnant again by another man. So within a year of having her third child, Jeanette is now having her fourth child, a little girl who she names Willadine. Now Jeanette doted on Willadine, and people think the only reason she loved her so much was because Willadine's biological father was Jeanette's high school sweetheart who she was still in love with.
This girl just keeps popping out kids, okay? They're on like baby number 4 at this point. She just keeps popping them out, and it seems like the only one that she likes and favors is the one that is not actually Willie's biological child. However, even the favorite child named Willadine realized that she was not immune to her mother's actions.
Willadine wrote, "I was always my mama's favorite until I was 13, and when my body began to develop, my mom despised me. It was like she was jealous of me. She hated the sight of me. So by the time Willadine was older and her mama turned on her, Willadine now had nobody because none of the other kids wanted anything to do with her at that point."
When she was 15, Willadine got pregnant. And this set off a terrifying chain of events with Jeanette. Jeanette said some horrible things to her, did some horrible things, basically told her that she was not going to be allowed to keep the baby. You have to think this is 1905. There aren't exactly like clinics around to help with that kind of thing. Well, the baby survived. And actually, Jeanette has this incredible idea where she's like, hey, I don't want you to have this baby, so let's just sell it. And she sells this baby off for $75.
2 days later, Jeanette came into Willadine's room with 2 strangers and a handful of money, and they took the baby and left. Jeanette sold her own grandchild.
$75 to 2 strangers she had met in a bar the night before. So Willadine's father comes home. He asks her, where's the baby? The baby was literally just born. And she can't even tell him what has just happened. And this is the point where Willie finally stands up to Jeanette.
Willadine said, "When my father confronted my mother, it was a huge argument. My mother could not believe he was actually standing up to her for the first time. Sadly, it was all for nothing because the next morning around 8 o'clock, my father's body was found on the farm. My mom told everyone he had a heat stroke. He had a heat stroke at 8 a.m.? Okay. There were no cuts, scrapes, bruises, or blood. No injuries at all. It looked like he had just collapsed and fell asleep. But I knew the truth. I knew my mom had found a way to get rid of him without drawing attention.
This is where I have to issue a massive trigger warning to those of you who will go watch this original video. Like I said, Leelee's a fantastic storyteller, but a lot of this is incredibly triggering. Basically, now that Willie is gone and there's no one to protect her daughters, Jeanette starts essentially turning them into cash cows. She puts them into situations where they become pregnant, have these babies, and she either sells them off or does something else with them because they will magically disappear.
Around 7 years later, Willie and Geraldine finally escape their mother's home through an older brother and start living their own lives.
As time passes, basically her whole family thought that this woman would just never die. She was so evil, she was living off of spite and evilness and hatred alone. However, at one point she approaches her sons and says, hey, like, I'm ready to be a mom again. I'm ready to be a grandmother again. And for some reason, these knuckleheads believe her. And as you would expect it to, history repeats itself. She ends up doing something to their son, her like grandson's Candy, that puts him in the hospital and he has to get 19 stitches in his mouth. Remember how earlier I said she literally put razor blades in her mother's food? But even this old evil woman had to go sometime. And so at 96, she falls pretty ill.
And to this day, no grass grows on her grave, not one blade of grass. I wish I could show y'all a picture of it, but her family asked me not to expose them. It's so creepy because every grave around hers is growing thick, tall grass, except hers is just barren. Every plant they put on her grave, no matter how much they water it and take care of it, it always dies within a few days. Whether it's a rose bush, a fern, or an azalea bush, it doesn't matter, it always dies. I bet it's because she was so evil, her soul can't rest. Her soul is a bad vibe and it's killing everything around it. Them plants be like, this, we out.
That is a truly crazy story. And I will tell you, my Google search history is full of Jeanette, Willie, Dean, all of this, basically trying to see if I can find anything that's like real about this scenario. What I believe is that Leeleee was emailed this story, especially based on like how she talked about not wanting to expose the family. So this is supposedly someone's very real, like crazy grandma or something like that. Do I fully believe it? No, I do think it's a really interesting story. There probably are some real roots to it. However, sometimes people will tell me that I tend to brush off things that seem like too dark to be believed. And I don't really think it's that. Like, I truly do think that humanity is like, unfortunately, capable of very bad things. It's not that I don't think this is possible. I think it's just this particular story I'm not 100% on board with, but the way that she tells these dang stories is so freaking entertaining, okay? And I believe that she believes it. But I'm curious what you guys think, okay? Because I usually don't even like weigh in on whether or not I think these stories are true. I just take them for what they are. This one in particular, because it was sent in by someone else, you know, there are other layers to it. But yeah, I'm curious what you guys think. Do you think Jeanette was a real evil lady that's just someone's horrible family trauma, or do you think that maybe this was embellished a bit? I'm very curious. Either way, if Jeanette is based off of a real lady, screw her. I stumbled across a TikTok user named Katie who goes by Femdecoded online, and she has a really cool page. She's actually a photographer and she does a lot of stuff camping and in nature, but she had a truly terrifying experience and posted this video with the caption, "It's 2 a.m. I'm camping in the woods and just woke up to a man standing outside my rig, staring through my window and trying to get into my truck."
This kid, I'm so confused right now. This kid and his girlfriend were next to me at the river earlier. They seemed harmless. They were probably like in their mid to late 20s. And they didn't say anything to me at all the entire time I was next to them. And then all of a sudden they lost this ring, and the guy kept coming back, like hiking all the way back to where I was, like 3 different times. And so I was helping him look for this ring. And I asked him, like, hey, do you want me to take down your number? I'm gonna be here just in case I find the ring. And I asked him this like 3 times, and he kept saying no and like insisted that I hide it somewhere random, which seemed so weird.
Katie says she just has a really weird feeling about this. Like, they keep coming back. She just feels strange about it. And later on, hours later, she suddenly gets this text message that says, hey, it's the guy from earlier, like, thanks for helping us, which was weird because she hadn't given him her number. Like, they hadn't exchanged numbers. And he says, can we come over to your campsite later for drinks? And she's like, how did you get, number one, no. How did you get my cell phone number? And he says, oh, it was on the back of your rig. And now alarm bells are going off. She's like, how would you possibly have known which one of these is mine? What are you talking about?
My phone number's not on the back of my rig. And he's like, oh, I saw your Instagram handle. I called my best friend. Can you get my phone number from my Instagram? She's like, no. I checked, no. Okay, I had this gut feeling that something was wrong. He texted me again at like 10 o'clock at night and was like, hey, we're gonna go for a moonlight hike. Do you want to come? And I'm like, I don't know you. No, what? I just had this gut feeling that I needed to leave here, but I was like, they're so young.
So after all of this, by the way, is when she sees a man standing outside of her camper.
And then just now, this I literally wake up like, no, there's no, I just hear somebody out. I'm in the woods by myself camping. I hear somebody outside of my truck just creeping around and I like jolt up. Usually when I hear things like this, it's nothing. And I look out, there's a figure of a man outside of my window in the woods and he doesn't have a light on. He's not saying anything. I just hear him trying to get into the cab of my truck. And I was like, hey, what the are you doing? And he's like, is this Katie? I fell in the river. I need a towel.
And I have to say at this point, this girl is handling this with so much more grace and I don't know, just bravery than I ever could. And I think that that's what sets me apart from the girls who can actually go camping like this.
And he just ran. He like ran away. Sorry, and ran away. Sorry? You weren't trying to, no, you're sorry you got caught. I just texted the number they texted me from and I was like, dude, you do not roll up on some girl's campsite who's alone in the middle of the woods at 2 o'clock in the morning. You're lucky you didn't just get yourself. If you're watching this right now because for some reason you found me on social media and this is what this is all about, what the hell? I will actually, that would not have ended well for you.
There are just so many dangers to already being a woman traveling alone. Like it literally makes my heart race in my chest to think about. When I was in Japan recently, we actually had a taxi driver act a little weird when we pulled up to our location because it's right next to this hotel. And he kind of like said something along the lines of like, okay, well, I'm glad you guys aren't there. We were both kind of like, okay. And we realized it's because not at that location, but at a different version of this hotel, it's the APA hotel, a woman entered her room to find a man underneath her freaking bed. I know that was a bit of an aside, but just that entire story scared me so badly. It seemed like it was someone very unwell in her situation, and I'm glad that like, you know, the craziest thing was that he just screamed and then ran out, but it could have been so much more terrifying than that. Anyways, sorry, I know I just got so derailed. There's actually a part 2 to the camping story, but I just had to share why it's so terrifying to be a woman traveling alone. Anyways, the update reads, was camping alone and woke up to a man standing outside my camper at 2 a.m. trying to get in. Was police escorted out of the woods.
Basically what happened, you want to know the whole detail, go back to my last video. He did end up texting me back like 10 minutes after I posted the first video and said that the only reason he was standing outside of my truck is because he had fallen down a cliff and fallen into the water and broken ribs and he needed my help. This is bullshit. This man was not trying to get my attention in any way, shape, or form. He was standing out in the dark, fiddling around. The only reason I heard him is because I just happened to hear something and then jolt up and then see him standing out, staring through my window in the dark.
So he gives this like lame excuse or whatever, and she's just like not buying it. And I'm very proud of this woman, okay? I know it's maybe silly to be proud of a stranger, but she really is so smart in this situation. Like I said, was so much braver than I ever could have been. And she asks the cops when they show up, like, hey, did you get a call about something like this? Because that's a pretty crazy thing to happen, right?
Did you guys get a call that a man fell off a cliff in the middle of the night and was injured and was in an ambulance on the way to the hospital? He said no. We did not, and we would know. We're linked up with the EMS, where the cops and the EMS are a team. We would know if somebody fell off a cliff. So that was a lie. He also went on to say that he was hiking a place called Willow Cove. He said that he was doing that at 10 o'clock at night for a moonlight hike that he wanted me to come with him on. If he was hiking, I looked up the hike, it's 0.6 miles. He was outside of my camper at 2 o'clock in the morning trying to get in. Okay, that's 6 hours later. Also, Willow Cove is 6 miles from where I was parked camping.
She ends the video off by saying that this is something you hear about happening to other people and you never think it will happen to you. And that's kind of the situation with the girl that I was telling you guys about who found somebody underneath her bed in her hotel room in Japan. You just never think something like that will happen to you until it does. And I am just so glad that she is okay, because what a crazy roller coaster of a story. A TikToker named Sway has been sharing her paranormal and medium stories online, and they have been fascinating to watch. I mean, she talks about her experiences seeing ghosts like in the club and stuff. I mean, this girl has some crazy stories. But in particular, I stumbled across one of her videos where she talks about specifically bringing a ghost home with her from New Orleans. She ends up getting back home, which she says for her is Atlanta, a lot of Georgia girlies in today's video, which I love. And as soon as she gets back, things start moving around in her home.
When we were leaving New Orleans and we were all in the car, I felt that there was a man with me, and I told everybody in the car there was a man with us, and we all did our own little separate prayers to try to get him to go ahead and stay where he was at, and he couldn't come with us, right? Of course, sometimes it doesn't always work depending on the people that you're around and all that. So I get back to Atlanta. About 3 or 4 days after that, things start moving around in my house, okay? One, I start realizing that there's somebody peeking around corners in here like this. And I would see shit like this. So after seeing that a lot, I started to acknowledge the spirit, like, who are you? What do you want? Get out, you know? And then it started touching stuff in here. So this was me and my girlfriend was going through this where we would be sitting somewhere alone and things start moving around in the house. There was a time where I was sitting over here on this couch, and all the way across the room over here, I saw my shoe slowly lean and fall off of something. There was a different time I was sitting right here on the couch, and you see that bag over there? That bag is hooked onto some clips. It unhooked itself and fell to the floor. Dead silent in here. I'm chilling, sitting on the couch by myself, and I just have to look up and be like, stop touching shit, right?
Like I said, this poster is also a medium, and so she's starting to see things with this guy that you can't necessarily see with the naked eye, okay? She knows like how old he is. She knows what he's wearing, you know? She's kind of getting a feel for him. And she said specifically it wasn't like a bad spirit at all. She said she got the sense that like she was the only light he could see at that time. Like, you know, he's kind of almost a little bit lost in the afterlife, and he ended up following her home. However, that did not stop him from being kind of creepy, because one day when the poster is taking a nap, her girlfriend tells her, you know, go take a nap, whatever. The girlfriend stays in the kitchen and she goes to take her nap. The poster hears her girlfriend come into the room. But as you already probably know, it wasn't her.
I'm in the bedroom, on the end of the bed, taking a nap, right? Laid underneath of like this extra little blanket or whatever, just laying on the end of the bed. I felt her walk into the room, and you know where you can kind of hear the air change or whatever, like when somebody's coming close to you. I felt her and heard her walk into the room, and it felt like she walked into the room, looked at me, noticed I was asleep, and then touched my head and gave me a kiss and walked out. Now, when she walked in, when I heard her walk in the room, I woke up. My eyes was closed, but I woke up. I thought she was going to ask me something. So I woke up, and I felt the fingertips touch the back of my head, and I felt my head kind of get this weird little tingle on the inside, and I felt the really, really light. And I turned directly around, and the room was empty. So I sat up, and I said, oh, okay. Came out here and noticed she was in the kitchen.
And she knew when this happened, like, okay, you can't stay here. But she also said that she's not just, you know, banishing spirits off to be dealt with by someone else. She says that she reached out to her spirit guides and asked them to help him move on towards the light, and that he did. And her house is clean now, and she doesn't have any spirits attached to it, which is fantastic. I have to imagine as a medium, you get a lot of those kinds of like entities attached to you. I also have to imagine as a spirit. Like, it has to be so relieving for someone to be able to like sense you and see you and stuff like that. So I get it in both ways. But yeah, again, this poster has so many paranormal stories on her account. A lot of these people, like I said, are just great storytellers who are kind of making a go of it, and I absolutely love it. I love following TikTok accounts like this that I can just, you know, get my little scary story fill on the daily in between these videos. This video is getting a little bit longer than I kind of thought it would, so I'm gonna take a break and I'll see you tomorrow. Oh my God, you guys, I am living right now. I have Carson on this side and Gigi on this side. Oh my gosh, we have a Carson cameo. Hi, Sunny. Oh my heavens, you have no teeth. Do you guys remember TikToker Jmara? We talked about one of her stories in a recent video where she described her experience working in a very haunted house. Well, she's still telling plenty of scary stories over on her TikTok account, and she told this one about a follower's experience going to Salem and bringing home what she believed was a demon. This story starts when the original poster is 18. She said that she had been practicing witchcraft basically for a while, and when she turned 18, she and her friends went to Salem, Massachusetts. While they're there, they run into another group of people who they think seem pretty cool, and they all decide, you know, hey, we're all gonna just hang out together and do the fun, you know, touristy, witchy things of Salem with all of us, which sounds like an ideal vacay scenario. Except in this situation, they were not quite on the same page when it came to witchcraft.
So she did mention that one of the other girls in the other group seemed to be into more things like other than witchcraft. She really wanted to, you know, be in the haunted houses. She was talking about demonic stuff the entire time. And so she said she really wasn't messing with it, and she really wanted her and her friends to break away from the other friend group. So she said because her other friends was like, no, let's not be rude. You know, it's okay. Let's just do something that they want to do, and then we can do what we want to do.
So what is the one activity that this other group wants to do? Well, the one girl in particular, the girl who seemed to be wanting to go into the haunted houses, maybe exploring the darker things, wanted all of them to sit in a pentagram circle and starts talking about how she wants to summon the devil. As Jmara says, this would have been probably the time to walk away. However, this poster did not want to be rude. She stayed put.
Oh, Lord Jesus. So she said instead of walking away, they all stayed there. Her and her friend group all stayed there with the other friend group. And they just stayed throughout the entire thing. She said that she could hear really loud stomping when the girl, quote unquote, was calling upon the devil. So she said once she started hearing the loud stomping, she told the girl, okay, this needs to stop. Like, can you stop this right now? Is there a way, like, you know, to get all this to stop? I don't want to hear nothing. I don't want you chanting no more. Her and her friends like stood up and went on about their way.
This really freaked her out to the point where she literally stood up from the circle, was like, I want nothing to do with this. The girl eventually apologized, just said, I've always been really into this stuff. Like, I'm sorry I took it too far. This is just where the haunting begins though. Because for the next year after this trip, this poster says that she felt like she was being watched constantly within her own home. But things did not escalate until she brought one particular boyfriend home.
So she said she ended up getting this boyfriend and he would stay the night. And whenever he would stay the night, she said that she would feel so sick. It was almost overwhelming. So at first she was getting nervous and she thought maybe she was pregnant. And so, of course, she gets a test, nothing. She goes to the doctor, nothing. So she pretty much just chalked it up to maybe it was a little bug and it's now gone. But she continued to have this relationship with this young man that she was with. And she did notice that whenever he came over, he was more accident prone. And when she says accident prone, she means like he's falling down the stairs, falling. So fast forward to her and her boyfriend were, you know, about to go downstairs and cook some dinner together. So they were both walking downstairs to the kitchen. She said she was a few steps behind him, so she wasn't close to him. And she said he just went flying down the steps. He looked up at her and was just like, why did you do that? Like, he really was convinced she pushed him down those stairs. So he hurt himself. He ended up breaking his arm. Fast forward, she ended up taken to the hospital. His arm is broken, but now he's looking at her like, all right, nah, you trying to hurt me.
When this happens, when he falls down the stairs, he literally breaks his arm. And he's looking at her really kind of sketched out at this point, like fully believing she is the one who pushed him down the stairs. She's freaking out because she's like, I absolutely did not do that to you. I hate that you think that. But He must have really liked her, Jmara says, because he ended up going back to her place to recover. And when that happened, it got even worse.
One night, she said they were sleeping in her bed, and she woke up to him like struggling in the bed, like he was fighting for his life. So when she woke up, she said that he looked at her and he was just like, oh my God, are you trying to kill me? And she said, she asked him, like, what are you talking about? He said, you punched me in my face. Like, I felt a big punch in my face. So now the girl is terrified because she don't know what to do. She said when she looked up, she saw this really dark and tall figure standing in the corner of her room. And it stood there like, yeah, you see me, now what? So now the boyfriend, he pretty much don't want to be bothered with her no more, and he leaves. And she tells him, you know, I'm so sorry. I really don't know what you're talking about. He ghosts her. He never talks to her again.
The crazy part is this isn't an isolated incident. After this relationship ended, the poster ended up getting another boyfriend, and everything was fine, you know, when they're calling, texting, whatever, but he finally comes over to her house one night for dinner and literally gets up and leaves. And she says it has nothing to do with like the conversation or anything. It was like he sensed something weird in the house. Never spoke to her again. And so now she says that she feels like this thing is running off everybody that she really cares about. And it doesn't seem like there's any sort of conclusion to this. I mean, it seems like this girl is probably still really young, maybe still 19 or 20 or something. And all of this is still something that she's actively dealing with. Now, I do think that like things can attach themselves to you. Paranormal energies, just spirits in general, can totally attach themselves to you as a person. I would think that in this girl's case, and the off chance that she's watching this video, that she probably needs to do a proper cleansing of her space, but also herself. Because whatever this is clearly hurting people. It does not have good intentions. It is not like a love and light being, you know? And I don't want her to lose another man to this thing. So I hope that she ends up like cleansing her space, but mostly herself, because whatever this was that attached itself to her kind of does sound like it maybe stemmed from this trip, but I don't know. I'll be curious to hear what you guys think of that story. I'm not sure if I featured this TikToker in a video before, but her name is Jordsashleiigh. Number one, congratulations to her on getting married. I've been following all of her bridal content and her wedding was gorgeous. But number two, she tells a lot of stories and a lot of follower stories. And this one in particular, whoo, buddy, it's a weird one.
So there's a newly married couple, Jess and Jeff, what a pair. Married for 3 weeks, check in their wedding photos when they just come in. Jess loves her dress. It's a beautiful vintage dress. She's also wearing a borrowed silver hairpin. Husband looks beautiful. Loves seeing all the guests. Jess notices someone unfamiliar when she's looking at the photo of her walking down the aisle. All the guests are looking at Jess or Jeff, but there's one guest that's standing right at the back, a tall, thin, pale lady with long black hair that is facing away from the camera and facing away from Jess. She's just stood looking to the side. She asks her new husband, do you know who this is? And he just says, no, it must be someone on your side of the family that's sat on your side of the church. So then she thinks maybe it's a plus one. Maybe one of her cousins have brought an extra girlfriend, who knows?
This is really upsetting Jess. I mean, she can't figure out who in the world this person is. Eventually, she decides in her own mind, this is a wedding crasher, okay? Like, this is just someone who crashed my wedding and I'm pissed off because they're in our photos and I don't recognize her. As they continue to go through the photos, later on, they see another photo of the woman doing the exact same thing at the reception, standing there, looking off to the side in that exact pose. And Jess is starting to feel, you know, weird about this. I mean, it's the exact same pose, but then she sees something a lot scarier.
She's going through photos of her and her husband, like the posed, the staged photos. And in one of the photos, placed on Jess's shoulder, is a pale, slender, fingered hand touching her shoulder, just lightly, just the fingertips. She screams for her husband, like, come here and look, the woman's touching me. I don't even remember her touching me. And he's saying, she's obviously not touching you. It's obviously my hand, Jess. She's going, no, look, it's a woman's hand. And he said, it's obviously not a woman's hand. Me and you were posing for these photos. It's obviously my hand. And she's working out the mechanics. She's going, but how can it be your hand? Because your hand is around my waist. And he's saying, it can't be anything else. We would remember a woman there with us. It has to be my hand. Jess is still convinced that this woman is a wrong un.
Now, Jess is pretty freaked out at this point, and she goes back to the first photo where she saw the woman, and she ends up calling up her cousin because her cousin was actually sat the closest to this woman in the pews. So Jess calls up her cousin and she's like, hey, who were you sitting next to at the wedding? And her cousin like says, you know, oh, uncle, whatever. And Jess is like, no, I mean like at the actual like wedding, who were you sitting next to? And her cousin says, oh, I wasn't sitting next to anyone.
Jess explains that there was somebody else sat on the aisle. It was a woman with long, dark hair, tall and thin, very pale. And her cousin's saying, I'm telling you now, Jess, there was no one sat on our pew because I remember I had to quickly escape when one of the kids started crying. And there was no one there.
Jess is trying to talk to her husband about this. He's kind of brushing it off, saying it really is just a wedding crasher. She's like, okay, clearly I am the one who needs to take a chill pill here. So she decides to go and take a shower.
While Jess is in the shower, she notices something like tickling at her feet. And she looks down and she notices long strands of black hair are circling round the shower drain. She doesn't understand what's going on. She's blonde. Where is this hair coming from? And then she has this feeling that the woman is there with her, just washing her hair or something, I don't know. Jess senses someone behind the shower curtain and she calls out to her husband, hoping it's him, but she doesn't get a reply. And then slowly, can't finish the sentence, she sees the figure behind the shower curtain extend its arm, long and thin, until she eventually sees its hand come through the shower curtain. It quickly grabs Jess's hand and pulls her that far out of the shower that she falls as she cracks her head on the ceramic. When she comes to, she's just having 8 words repeating in her head. Something old, something new, something borrowed, and something blue. Something borrowed, and that's when she recalls when she's seen black hair before. The silver hairpin that her husband's mum insisted that she wore for their wedding. Family heirloom. She was so excited to wear it. And that's when she remembered that when she lifted the silver hairpin out of the box, it had long black strands of hair in it.
Total chills. I have no idea if she ever saw the woman again after that, if they had to like burn the hairpin or something. I really don't know. But oh my God, literally one of the creepiest stories I've ever heard. It needs to be a horror movie. I'm not sure of the validity of this one because I saw on the hashtags like Reddit was mentioned. So I don't know if it was like a fictional story that she stumbled across or if this was like a follower submission or something like that. But either way, the story is terrifying. And like I said, literally needs to be some kind of movie. I can see the wedding photos in my head. I'm not 100% sure on the validity of that last story, but this next one is completely true and really happened to the person telling the story. It is entirely true, and I am including it as a bit of a cautionary tale for people out there because, like I said earlier in this video, you think this kind of stuff can never happen to you until it does. She also literally has footage of this entire event going down. This poster's name is Alexis, and she says that she has been hearing something moving around in the attic space above her apartment. She lives on the top floor, so this isn't really like upstairs neighbor behavior, you know what I mean? Her husband kept brushing it off, and she's like, you know, no, I am home all the time. She has twins, which is so sweet, but she spends all of her time at home with these kids.
Friday comes around. I'm in my living room, I'm feeding my babies, and I hear like someone standing over me in the living room, and it sounds like they're like looking through the vent. And so I start recording, and like the sound stops, and when I put my phone down, the sound starts again. So it feels like someone can see me. So I'm like losing my mind. So when it comes to fight or flight, I'm fight, even though I'm a scaredy cat. So like when I'm confronted with danger, I'm not running to it, but when I'm confronted with it, like I'm a fight. So I was like, you know what, like I'm gonna call maintenance right now because I'm sick of this. So I'm like, pack your stuff up. Like this is literally what I'm saying to them. I'm like, pack your stuff up because maintenance is gonna come right now.
So eventually, through a string of events, kind of confirming with other neighbors that they had also heard something similar, she goes to her building's property managers and says, I think there is somebody in the attic. And on the phone, they're like, huh, somebody else just reported this as well. You know, that they had heard an animal or something moving around in the attic. So property management comes out.
One of the property managers like gets on a little step stool and like begins to like go up there to like yell and see, you know, just to see. And of course, at this point they're probably like, whatever, you know? So one was like, do you see cracks in your ceiling? And I was like, I don't know, like you can come in and look. So he's in my house looking, we're chatting, I'm telling him what's going on. So then the main property manager, John, comes down and he goes into my house with the other property managers and he goes, oh, it was just a TV. And we all look at each other and we're like, the TV was not on. This man, this is a grown man, the property manager, like this man makes money. Why would he say this? Okay. This man, trigger warning, starts shaking, becomes pale as a ghost. And he was like, we need to call the police. Someone is up there. When I yelled out, like he yelled out, like, make yourself known, whatever. He said that someone is up there saying, kill me, just kill me. And he was like, call the police, call the police.
And the terrifying thing is that, like I said, she has video of this. Not the original, you know, the guy saying, kill me, but she does have like video of the property managers talking about it.
Wait, I've been yelling at them through the vent. I heard them like watching me or something, and I said, I'm calling maintenance right now. If you guys you need to leave. Oh God.
And here is where this story gets so freaking infuriating. The property management, they call the police because, I mean, they've just heard someone talking up there. The police come, they go up to this attic. Now, mind you, it is incredibly hot. This poster says that everybody who was coming down from this attic was just sweating buckets. There's no AC up there or anything. So maybe they didn't like look around very thoroughly, but they come back down and they're like, well, no one's there now. We did find a vape and shoes that like shoe prints, you know, footprints that look like they could have been recent, but they also could be old. And this poster is just sitting there like, we are the first people to live in this place. What are you talking about? Like nobody's been up there with a vape. And you might be saying, okay, well, what about the guy literally talking? The police said that it was probably someone that they could hear outside, like mowing the grass. Are you kidding me? Cops do your freaking job challenge, man. And apparently the difficulty is impossible. All of this happens. The building managers leave. This poster ends up talking about it with her husband and their neighbor. And as they are having a conversation about everything that just went down, they once again hear what sounds like somebody moving around in the attic upstairs.
We like start talking about what happened. I kid you not, we hear footsteps over us in the hallway once all the police leave. There's footsteps over us in the hallway. And we hear like people walking around or a person walking around all night. I am still hearing noises. I got myself a Ring doorbell. I have my suspicions of who in this building it could be if it's not an outsider, but I don't want to say because I don't want to put myself in danger, which I probably already am. So if you guys don't hear from me, that's what happened. But I would like to put like a little motion camera in the attic. If you're watching this and you're the person, get a life. Like, stop watching me. Is hot as heck out up there. Like, what are you doing?
And this entire situation is just completely infuriating because here you have a young mother with 2 young children who spends most of her days at home alone. She did everything right. She went to the property management. They went to the police. And still nothing was done. And I know that because she actually posted this update to her account, in which she is filming it from her closet because it's the only room basically where there are no vents. And once again, remember, she thinks they're like staring through the vents or like they're near the vents because maybe that's how they get AC or something like that. Anyways, it doesn't matter. She's literally whispering in her closet. So whoever this is doesn't hear her. And the update is just more of the same. The police have been called back out because it's still going on and they still are just doing nothing to help her.
Who do I think it is? Is it paranormal activity? I could do a video about that as well. What I have concluded is it's a resident. Is it a weird resident? A teenage resident? Who knows? I and my husband and Luke and Tanisha, we're about 90% sure we know who it is. Maintenance has not put a camera up there. So how do I know? Well, I cannot publicly say that we have put a camera up there. So we're just guessing. We have a Ring doorbell, and I can show you the vents. Our ceilings are 10 feet high. I've concluded that we cannot, in fact, see through the vents. Why was I hearing noise around the vents? I don't know. Maybe that's just the way sound was traveling. But this resident is currently not here, and we have not been hearing sounds.
I just feel terrible for this lady because I think it's very clear that like somebody is up there. She talks about in both videos, I didn't include this, but that she kind of thinks she knows who it is. And she's not going to say for her own safety. And I assume also, you know, not to like blast anyone who it would not be, but apparently she thinks she knows. Her neighbor friends think they know, like her husband thinks he knows. They're pretty sure they know who this is. Not maintenance, not property management, but like an actual resident of the building. Now, that last update was posted back in June, and there haven't been any other posts. My hope is that this was resolved. I don't have much faith in that, but I do hope this was resolved for her, and I really hope that she's able to sleep comfortably at night, that she's able to exist in her home without being terrified. So many times we hear stories like this, like people thinking there's someone in their house or whatever, and the comment sections are always like, why didn't you call the police? Why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that? And then you have a situation like this where mom does everything right and still gets zero help from the people who are actually supposed to be helping her. And I've seen so many people in the comment section trying to give advice saying, you know, move. Where's she gonna move to? People are saying if you have to stay, you know, like cover up the air vents, how are they gonna get AC? And once again, she has 2 very young children. Someone in the comments actually did give a bit of very good advice, just in case she's watching, and they said you should call firefighters because firefighters are often bored and absolutely will go up there for you. I don't know how true that is, but hey, it's worth a shot at this point. Just a truly terrifying situation and a bit of a bummer to end this video off on, but as I always say, real people are often much scarier than the ghosts. And there you guys have it. That was, I think we clocked in around 12. I'm really not sure. I've been filming this over 2 days, so I've lost count, but those were the scary TikTok stories I wanted to share with all of you. And I've missed you guys a lot, so hopefully you enjoyed this monster of a first video back in a while. And if you did enjoy, go ahead and give me a thumbs up, and please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. A special thank you to my subscribers who are members of the channel. If you want to join the channel memberships and get extra members exclusive perks like members only videos, polls help me decide on future video topics, and so much more, you can click that little join button somewhere around the screen. We would love to have you. An extra special thank you to my VIP loves for their continued and generous support of the channel. I love and appreciate you all very, very much. I love you all very much, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.